Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Monday morning, July 31st, 2023. So here we are, the last day of July, which is a good time to reflect on our success from this current month, and then certainly plan for what we're going to do next month in August to help more people and, of course, position you to generate more income. I shared this agenda with each of you in advance, and so today's topic is about our community credit and funding clinics. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about flyers that can be used, make it a little smaller, flyers that can be used to promote that and so forth. Tomorrow we have a really good topic on overcoming objections, so hope that you'll join us tomorrow. We'll talk about how to effectively and credibly overcome objections that prospects or referral partners might present. But today we're going to talk about community credit and funding clinics. It's an innovative way to create exposure, generate new clients, and of course, increase your income. Let's start as we normally do by just reflecting on what it is that the branch office is, what we do, how it works, and then we'll drill into the clinics. Those of you that were small business consultants in the past, if you weren't compliant over the weekend, you should have received an offer to release you from the small business consultant license agreement you were on and plug you into being a branch manager. So that should have been texted to you as a link, each of you separately over the weekend. Because again, if you were a small business consultant and you were not compliant, you can switch over, and then you can also facilitate community and credit funding clinics. But these are specifically a community outreach strategy used by our branch managers. All right, so let's again cover what a branch office is, then we'll get into the clinics. So the branch office is a concept that allows individuals to go to the marketplace under their brand name, under their marketing, under their umbrella. With that, they get to set their own client pricing, and we're out there working together to solve the number one problem that affects most of our society: credit and money. So again, it's a private label packaging. So you're not going out as a representative of us. We are providing the back room. We're a vendor of yours. We're doing the work, quite frankly, but you're the interface with the client, and that allows you to choose, again, client pricing. You get to pick the terms and conditions. So you're the interface with the clients. The analogy we used when we first rolled this out is it's like your Domino's pizza, and we provide you the pepperoni for the pizzas. So we're doing our part in terms of providing the scope of services under the credit and funding program, but all the client sees and knows is you're the interface. With that, we have a very, I think, fair, but very certainly very lucrative approach, which we have as a 50-50 revenue split. So if you run a branch office, we do a 50-50 revenue split off of two triggers. So with credit and funding, there are 2 times that clients pay and 2 times that you're paid, right? Because the money, of course, comes through clients' enrollment in the credit and funding program. So the first is upfront. There's a refundable setup fee that each client pays. Now, this can be financed, of course, but regardless of that, there is a refundable setup fee. You determine how much it is. Carlton's on the training this morning. He likes to go with $2,500. Oscar's on the training. I believe Oscar, and he packages it a little bit different. I think Oscar's closer to $5,000. So some of you charge more than this sample amount, some charge less, but it's up to you. We split it 50-50, but with a disclaimer, we have to generate enough income off that setup fee to cover our costs. And our costs are significant because we're providing those services to you so you can provide them to the client. So you can choose whatever refundable setup fee you want. It's 50-50, but there's a floor, a minimum that we need to receive to be able to provide the services. In other words, you can sell your pizza for as much or as little as you want, but you got to pay for the pepperoni. Make sense? And then so that's the front end revenue. So this is paid to you today, right? So you go enroll a client and they pay you today. Now, again, using Carlton as an example, you might have a client that pays you by Zelle or credit card or some method, and maybe there's not immediate payment. It takes a day or whatever to process. Understood. But you get the client under contract, they've promised to pay, so now you have a receivable, and then they pay, or we help them finance that. Then the back end revenue is paid just like a realtor's paid at closing. We're paid performance fees after the client receives each tranche of funding. After. So with that, we split that, 50-50, right? That's the deal. We talked about that. And so frankly, you can make this higher or lower. I'm trying to think. I think a lot of you are doing 10%. We were using Carlton and Oscar as examples a moment ago. I don't remember what they're charging for their performance fee, but it's up to you. We split it 50-50. But again, there's a floor. We need at least 5% to cover our cost for doing what we're doing. So we don't care about making a profit. I don't care if we ever make a profit. We're here to support you and support clients. But it's 50-50 with a floor on the front end, 50-50 with a floor on the back end. Make sense? So gross income, you're making around 12 grand if you're using recommended pricing per client. Net income around 6,000. Not bad for a side gig. Okay, so that's just the backdrop again on the branch office. We've covered it before, but if we don't understand the overlying model, then as we get into the clinics, it doesn't matter much. But now we're going to drill into the topic today, which are the community credit and funding clinics. These are not required. You don't have to do this, but this is a best practice. So those of you that are branch managers, we have a desire, we have a passion, we have an urgency, we want to go help people, and having community credit and funding clinics is a great way to do that. So let's do that. Let's discuss that now. And that's this topic here. So the community credit and funding clinics makes improving credit and accessing capital for individuals to start or grow a business. It's our local branch managers and or their staff who are involved with helping community members. And we do three things. We help them improve their financial literacy, the participants. We help them obtain free credit assessments, and we provide guaranteed capital raise strategies. So what we'll do is we'll work with each of you that are branch managers that want to host clinics in your community. We already have the first question, and it's Alfred. Alfred's asking, can these clinics be held in person and or virtually? And the answer is yes. It was really built around the model of holding in person. Those of you that have gone to law school or even just paralegal programs, many of you were involved with community legal clinics. I know that I was when I went through that. So this is a similar approach to what most attorneys and paralegals have done on community legal clinics. You and I are bringing it out to the marketplace on the credit and funding side. So we'll talk about promotion in just a moment. So the participants get free resources, free. They're going to get a free comprehensive credit review. And that's where we want to start, right? So let's step away from the clinic. Let's assume we're not even talking about the clinic. When you enroll someone in credit and funding as a branch manager, you get them under contract, they pay you, or they arrange financing to pay you. And then what's the first thing in implementation? It's to have them do that soft credit pull, because doing the soft credit pull allows us to look at the client's credit profile, start to determine, do we think that they'll qualify for funding right now based upon their current baseline information, and what needs to be done to improve their profile so they'll qualify for at least $100,000. So maybe they need help addressing derogatory items. Maybe they could benefit from new positive trade lines or some combination of the two. So my point in digressing is, regardless if it's a client enrolled in the program or a participant coming through the community credit and funding clinic, the first thing that we need to do for each individual is have them do a soft pull. So if you decide that you want to facilitate community credit and funding clinics, either in person or online, we're going to help you we're going to help you set up a registration process. And that registration process will be the participant authorizing a soft pull. Because without that soft pull, we don't have legal permission to pull their credit, soft inquiry only, and then we don't know what to advise them on. So just mental note, anyone that's going through the community credit and funding clinic, they'll register through you, they'll authorize a soft pull so we can then legally have their credit pulled and prepared so we can provide this first deliverable. Because what we're saying here is that participants in the community and credit and funding clinics get free services, and the first free service is a credit review. That's only possible if they've completed the soft pull. So let me pause there for a moment. Anyone have any questions about the credit review? So they'll register, we'll set up a registration process if you're going to hold these clinics. They'll register, they'll authorize the soft pull, we'll do the soft pull, and we'll have that so this first deliverable can be provided. Make sense? Now with that, then that blends to the second deliverable that each participant in the community credit and funding clinic will receive. And that is then assistance in moving from where they're at to where they need to be. Now, people like high scores, and some people say, well, I want an 800 credit score. Well, having an 800 credit score is really amazing, but it's not necessary to get funding. And the truth is, in most cases, we don't even need a 700. But general rule of thumb, higher the credit, the better. We're going to take a look at their baseline, just as I made reference to, and help them create a strategy to get from where they're at to where they need to be. And that's often through a combination of removing negative and adding positive. So at these clinics, the participants will register, they'll authorize a soft pull. From the soft pull, then we can do the review with them. And from the review, then we can create a plan to improve. Make sense? And then the third deliverable that is a free resource through the community credit and funding clinics is then we're going to also create a funding plan for them to get them the funding that they want to start or grow a business. So the community credit and funding clinics are just incredibly valuable. You're going out to the community, maybe you're working in collaboration with churches or community centers or banks or other organizations or entities. You can do these in person or virtually. And what we're doing is we're helping people get from where they're at to where they need to be, legally, ethically. So we're not selling them something, we're providing them some free resources. Now, of course, you and I understand that by the time that we've taken an individual, we've reviewed their credit, we've given them a plan to improve, which is typically the combination of removing negative and adding positive, and then creating a plan to get the funding to start or grow a business. Now they're pretty well primed to enroll in credit and funding, aren't they? Because you might say, well, didn't we just give it all away? Well, no, we help them create a specific plan, but now we need to go implement that plan. So we need to execute the credit improvement strategy, which is, again, typically removing negative and adding positive. And we need to implement or execute the funding plan to get them credible for the 100,000. And again, tomorrow's training is going to be a really nice one that dovetails into this. Tomorrow's training is on overcoming barriers and objections, but we'll save that for tomorrow. The theme, though, that you need to understand is what we do is obviously legal and ethical. What we do to accomplish this goal is we help people become qualified, right? That's the key to what you and I do. It's not too good to be true. It's not bait and switch. It's not a shell game. What you and I do through the credit and funding program is we help people become credible enough to be qualified for funding, because that's what it takes, right? You can't just want funding. You can't just demand funding. You have to qualify for funding, and that typically comes into the 3 C's, right? Collateral, credit, and capacity. That's what you and I do. All right, so who has questions? You can go ahead and type them into the Q&A box there of Zoom, kind of like a chat box. Who has questions or feedback on the community credit and funding clinics? So what you can see is we're providing an array of free services to be able to help people, but by helping people, you become a known and trusted resource, and we anticipate that you'll have a very high conversion rate of individuals that go through this process that become a client. All right, so Timothy's asking, do you have to do this? And no, that's what I meant to point out earlier. The clinics are great to go out and connect in the community, to help people, and to work with key influencers. Again, when I don't remember how many of you specifically went through a law school or a paralegal program as I did, but if you were out doing those legal clinics during your academia, man, it's powerful, right? You can get all kinds of organizations and key influencers behind you. So if you want to do a small scale in-person clinic, we can do it. If we want to do a big clinic, we can do a big clinic. If you want to just stick to virtual, we can do virtual. But what we're doing is we're providing valuable services to the participants, and at the same time, you're preparing them for enrollment in the credit and funding if they choose to. They're not required to. So someone could go through this and receive these services for free and have no further obligation. But I'd be very surprised if you didn't enroll at least 90% of the people after engaging them. So let's get some feedback from those of you that are branches. What are your thoughts of holding a clinic? Maybe just try one. You know, let's not commit to having one a month or one a week or one a day, but would you be willing to try to have one? Alonzo, what do you think? Would you want to have one? Bernard, would you want to try to have one? Carlton, what do you think? Jeanette, Lon, Oscar, Pauline, we've got 307 of you on today. Would each of you want to consider having one clinic? So this leads to Oscar's question, which is where? And that's right. In my opinion, in our experience, we want to work with some sort of key influencer that often can provide the space and the sphere of influence. Churches are great. Doesn't have to be a church. Community centers. Carlton's mentioning mortgage companies. That's true. There's all kinds of different key influencers. Now, it was Bank of the Ozarks that I did my first one with, and my goodness, that was probably a decade ago. But they literally allowed us to use their conference room there in the branch. I mean, how much more credible can that be? And then we had an insurance agent that was the sponsor. So he provided food for everyone and had the opportunity to go to the front of the room. I think he sold home protection insurance policies or something. I forget. But having clinics and getting visible in your community makes you relevant. It's like putting your flag in the sand. You're not just some questionable online presence. You're real. You're there to help people. And the more visible you are, the more referrals you can get from key influencers. And so certainly, as Oscar made reference in the Q&A, having them on a reoccurring basis is best practice. So I used to work for the SBA, Small Business Administration, through a small business development center. If that's too technical, it doesn't really matter. But the point is, I was doing these clinics and it was wonderful. I held them at a co-working space, which has since closed with the pandemic, but a co-working space was great. So I did it once a month. I'm trying to remember to tell you accurately. I think it was the third Thursday of each month. That's about right. And so then they would promote it. So they would create a schedule and they would fill my schedule because it was great for them. So having key influencers is very helpful, because our worst case scenario, and I guess it's not too bad, but our worst case scenario is we say, oh yeah, I want to have a clinic. And then we say, well, I can go get a room. I'll go book a room. But if you're the one booking a room, now you're left with filling your calendar to get people registered. Instead, if we work with key influencers, they typically can provide the room and then promote the community credit and funding clinic out to their sphere of influence. All right, so next, Lon has a question, and it's good. So this is not a traditional workshop. And so I feel like that's what Lon's inferring, and that's my fault, not his. But it's not about getting a group of people in the room and speaking generically. And that's frankly the way that we started. But what we've learned is people care, and this is a generalization, but people care about themselves and their circumstances. And there's almost an infinite amount of educational resources out there. So this is about one-on-one sessions, right? So let's pretend that I have someone going through, and let's say his name's Carl. Just pick a random name, a pretend name. And so Carl registers for my clinic. I have him register, which includes doing a soft credit pull. And so then I'm having a one-on-one with Carl. So it's private, right? We're not doing this in front of everyone else. It's private. And so I'm reviewing Carl's credit with him and coming up with a strategy. So let's say that Carl has too many inquiries. Let's say he has 7 inquiries in the past 6 months. So it's not like it's a crazy high amount, but that is a barrier to getting some types of funding. So for example, I'm having a one-on-one with the participant, in this case, hypothetically Carl, to say, well, Carl, you've got a good score. You're at a 715. However, there's some elements of your profile that's not making you as fundable as what you need to be for us to reach the goal. So what we'd like to do is recommend, let's remove the excess inquiries. In other words, those that are not connected with an open trade line. And let's go ahead and add a large primary revolving account trade line to your profile. So now your score will go up, but most importantly, it's stronger. So then we can qualify. So what we're doing is we're taking each individual client, looking at their circumstances and showing them how we can get from here to there. Early in my career, I worked for a credit repair company. This is many, many, many years ago out of Plano, Texas. And we had a contract at that time with the NFL Players Association. So we worked a lot with former athletes. And so what I was taught by those leaders back then is if you want to engage someone in a program like what you and I do with credit and funding, make it relevant to them. We don't need to spend a lot of time talking about general topics. Instead, do a free analysis, a free consultation. And that's what we're doing with the community credit and funding clinics, is we're setting up a place, a location, there's a registration, and then we're able to sit down with individuals, provide them free resources that are outlined right here. And so we can create flyers. This is the general credit and funding flyer, but we'll create this, and it'll be a altered version of this, specifically promoting your clinic. And you could have one of these, you could have multiple. Again, they could be in person or online. In person has the greatest impact because now you're visible. People like to be in front of people, especially when they're talking about private information. But I know as branches, you can work with anyone anywhere. So unless you plan on traveling to New York City and Chicago and Los Angeles and across the country, maybe you want to do both. Maybe you want to have some in-person clinics as well as virtual. That's up to you. We're here to provide you the training and the support and the resources so you can help a lot of people as branch managers. And from that, you're generating on average about $12,000 gross income per. So, okay, let's get back into your question. So several of you ask about the key influencers or where to have them or who to work with. It's up to you. You can assess your community and decide who are some key influencers. But as Carlton mentioned, mortgage companies, even realtors. We've had some of you go to car dealerships. banks, churches, community centers, co-working spaces. I mean, you need to assess your community and identify tax preparers, others that work with small businesses. So there's no right or wrong answer. But once you have, as far as action steps, once you've decided where you want to have your clinic and when, then what we can do then is make sure we get the promotional materials customized, and then we need to set up the registration process, because registration is key. People need to be registered for a specific time, because we're going to need about 15 minutes with each person to go through and provide them the promised deliverables, these 3 resources. So you'll have a schedule. All right, so let's see what other questions any of you have. Lon had asked about a slideshow. So it's not about a slideshow. It's not about group presentations. It's about the individual resources. Pauline's asking if we'll support. Absolutely, yeah. So any of you that are branch managers, this is just one strategy, one way that we can help you generate clients and help people. And this is very, very effective. And again, I know this is secondhand to a lot of you. A number of you, again, have gone through law school or even paralegal programs, and you have a lot of experience doing free community legal clinics. Some of you are healthcare professionals. We have a new doctor that just enrolled from Canada. So she does health clinics. Well, we're not doing a legal clinic. We're not doing a health clinic. What we're doing are credit and funding clinics. Anyone have any questions? So as far as action steps, identify where you would want to have your event and when, and then you let us know. And then we can start to plan it out. We can get the flyer put together for the specific event. And then we need to get a registration system in place, because people need to register in advance. We need to have the soft pull pulled in advance, so we're ready to provide the scope of services at the event. If you want to do them in person, fine. You want to do them virtually, that's fine too. In person is going to have the greatest impact. And again, this is free. We help you for free with this for anyone that's a branch manager. Questions, comments, concerns. So let's all set a goal. Let's set up one community credit and funding clinic in August, next month. Let's just have one. Here's what I would expect to happen. I would expect reasonably that you'll have about 20 people participate. So could be larger, could be smaller, but I think 20 is a reasonable size. And I do think that well over half that participate will enroll in credit and funding. But let's be conservative and let's do the numbers here. So let's say that we had 20 people participate, and half, which would be 10, of course, actually enroll in credit and funding. Let's assume that you're using the normal pricing that we've talked about. So you're anticipating $12,000 of income per participant. Your one-day event would be a 6-figure income producing event. Part of it up front, part of it not up front, right? Because the setup fee is paid up front, where this is after the capital raise. But I mean, if you could set aside one Saturday morning, or whenever you want, one Wednesday evenings, whatever you prefer, but to have a clinic, we have a great chance for you to generate tens of thousands, maybe a 6-digit income off of that one day. But it's not just about making money, it's about helping people. There's a lot of people that are not as fortunate as you, that don't know how to get their credit in line. They don't know how they're going to qualify for funding to start or grow a business. They're sometimes quite disappointed or even destitute. So this is an opportunity for us to go out to the community, be visible. Now, how are these clinics set up? They're under your branding, right? That's the whole concept of the branch office. This is under your brand. So you won't have our labels or our name. This is about your company, your branding going out, being visible in the community. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Because your action step would be decide, do you want to have one in August? And if so, when do you want to have it? And where do you want to have it? And as we've talked about, the where is best accomplished if it's with a key influencer, what we'll call a host. The host can provide the space and the sphere of influence to promote it to. There's no restrictions on who the host could be. Carlton said mortgage companies. I said churches, community centers, banks, libraries. There's so many different potential hosts. That's up to you, right? You're the branch manager. You're visible. You're running a business and you're in a given geographic area. You need to decide where you want to have the clinic, and then we can support you getting the promotional material put together. It will have a specific action step so people know how to register, and that registration will include getting the soft credit pull authorization from them. We need that. All right, in closing, Susan brings up a good point, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but I will since she initiated. Susan, you're exactly right. The truth is this: if you set up a clinic and you start registering people, there's a very good chance a lot of the people that register will sign up for the credit and funding program even before they show up for the clinic. Why? Because they now trust you, that they now know you. You've done the soft credit pull, which of course we do for you. That's part of our proposition. But there's so much movement from you being unknown and untrusted to being known and trusted. There's a very good probability that you have numerous of those registrants already enrolled even before the event. So it is, I guess, a marketing campaign. When I did this through the law school, it was it was for community service, but also it was great PR for the law school. And same for you. I mean, how better to get your name out as a resource in your community than by having these clinics and offering a set of free services. Now, it's true that after the free services, they may want to enroll in the credit and funding program, which is not free, right? It's not free. We've talked about the money, but it is an opportunity to help them accomplish their goals. Any other questions, comments, concerns? So all you got to do is just let us know. You got our contact information. You can email us, you can call us, you can text us. We should be scheduling weekly calls for strategy sessions. Let us know that you want to have a clinic. Let us know when you want to have it and where you want to have it, and then we can help you in being successful. It's wonderful. And again, in truth, it's not a whole different set of services than what clients get in credit and funding once they've enrolled. We're just picking some key elements out of the fee-based program, making it available through a community-based awareness campaign to bring people into the funnel. Hopefully that makes sense. So is it legal? Is it credible? Of course. Is it needed? Absolutely. There's a lot of people that need help with credit. There's a lot of people that need help with money, and you have a unique ability to help them. All right, so we'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place. And tomorrow we're going to talk about overcoming objections. So please plan to join us. See you tomorrow. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.